Okay, once again, good morning, everybody. In previous class, we looked into AC fundamentals. So, what is the alternating current? As we understand, alternating current is the one which continuously changes in its magnitude and or in direction with respect to the time. So, it will be continuously altering. So, that is called as the alternating current. And um, we saw different types of alternating currents, like it can be a sinusoidal waveform, it can be a square waveform, it can be triangular waveform. So all those represents the alternating current or the voltage. And out of those different waveforms, we chose like the sinusoidal is the most advantageous. So what is the advantage of sinusoidal waveform over other waveforms? Can you tell one or two advantages of the sinusoidal waveform?
It produces a sinusoidal current.
Very good. So, if you apply a sinusoidal voltage to the circuit, it will definitely result in a sinusoidal current. There will be no other waveform generated. That is the one advantage. For sinusoidal voltage, you will get the sinusoidal current. That's the one advantage. Any other advantages? Sinusoidal waveform produces the least disturbance. Correct. Vinant, that is correct. It produces a least disturbance in the circuit because it is the value of the alternating quantity in case of a sinusoidal is very gradual and very smooth. So that is the reason it causes least disturbance. And other advantages being like mathematical calculations are simple with respect to the sinusoidal waveform, and other advantages like sinusoidal current will flow through different loads like a resistor, capacitor, and uh, inductor, and also this is helpful in increasing the voltage level for the transmission that can be easily done using the transformers. And as we know, alternating when you apply the alternating voltage to the circuits, the direction of the current keeps on changing. For the first half cycle, it would be in the one direction, and the next half cycle, that is a negative cycle, the current is going to reverse its direction. And this is how we represent the alternating quantity, voltage, or the current using the sine waveform. And this sine waveform will start from 0 and it reaches the maximum value. We call it as Vm or Im, that is the peak value of the voltage or the current, and again it starts decreasing, and at pi it will become 0, pi, or at an angle 180 degree it will become 0, and it will start increasing in the negative direction, and it reaches a peak value in the negative direction, Vm or Im. And this peak value and this peak value would be exactly the same. Only thing is they will be in the opposite direction. This is a positive Vm and this is minus Vm. And again, it will start slowly increasing and it will become 0, then goes to the positive cycle. And this particular cycle, it will keep on repeating. So these are the advantages, least disturbance. And one more advantage is like if we apply the three-phase alternating voltage to a three-phase coil, it will result in a rotating magnetic field, which we will see in the later module. Okay, these are the advantages we just discussed. Now, next is we understood what is alternating quantity, and henceforth, when we talk alternating voltage or alternating current, we only means the sinusoidal waveform. We are not going to. It doesn't mean that unless and until it is specified in the problem. Alternating voltage or current means it's a sinusoidal. Now we'll see how the generation of the alternating voltage can be done. The way I showed the waveform, how we can generate a voltage or the current. So before going into the generation part, first we will understand the Faraday's laws of electromagnetic induction. Can anybody tell what is the Faraday's law, first law and the second law? What is Faraday's first law? So Faraday's law, it talks about electromagnetic induction. So there is a electricity involved, and there is a magnetic field involved, and there is a induction. Okay, so it induces. So that is the concept on which electricity is generated. What is Faraday's first law? Anybody, if you remember?
So, so mass deposited on the electrodes is directly proportional to the charge in coulombs.
Okay. Any other definition? Whenever whenever we talk about any laws, we have to understand the core of that. Means we have to understand what is the realistic meaning, how it can be translated into real world entities, because engineering is all about application. I told you, it's all hands on. Whatever we are learning, we should be able to implement. Anybody else? Faraday's first.
Magnitude of EMF is directly proportional to rate of change of flux.
Okay, that is Faraday's second law, isn't it? I will tell you two keywords. That is how you can remember. The proportionality constant is equal to the mass of substance. Okay, so I have two keywords so that we can understand what is the first law. So, what is the first law? The first law, before I state it, the first law, if you ask the question, how EMF is induced, how EMF is induced, if you answer this becomes the first law. And how much EMF is induced? Just now, she told how much EMF is induced. That is the second law. Can anybody remember how EMF is induced in a coil or a conductor?
By the movement of magnets, sir.
Very good. Okay. So that is nothing but the Faraday's first law. What is the Faraday's first law? Is the Faraday's first law says that in any electrical conductor or a coil, whenever the flux linked with that particular coil or a conductor changes, an EMF is induced. Means what? Suppose you have a coil or a conductor, as he said, if we move the magnet, okay, towards the coil or away from the coil, what happens is the flux linked with the coil changes. Whenever the flux linked with the coil changes, automatically an EMF is induced inside the conductor or the coil. So you have to remember, this is the principle that is used in all the electricity generation. You talk about the any kind of a hydropower plant, thermal power plant, any kind of a power plant, the generator that is being used, it works on the Faraday's first law. And what is that? What they will do is they will try to move the conductors. Okay, so move the conductor inside a magnetic field. When there is a magnetic field, when you move the conductor, okay, so it has to be done in a proper direction and all those things. So once you do that, EMF is induced. Okay, and that is the principle that is used in all the electricity generation. Simple is how EMF is induced. Whenever flux linked with a coil or a conductor changes, EMF is induced. That is the answer. And already Athia told the answer for the second one, how much EMF is induced. Now Faraday's first law, it told whenever we change the flux linked with a coil, EMF will be induced. EMF in the sense what? You see the battery, right? You get the voltage which you can connect it to any load or a bulb so that it will light it. So EMF is induced. The second question, we should know how much EMF is induced. The magnitude that is given by the Faraday's second law, the magnitude of the EMF induced is directly proportional to the rate of change of flux linkage. How fast the flux is getting changed with respect to that conductor, that will decide the the amount of or the magnitude of the EMF. If the flux linkage, the rate of change of the flux is very high, then high amount of EMF is induced. So what is the Faraday's second law? The magnitude of the EMF induced in a coil or a conductor is directly proportional to rate of change of the flux linkage. Okay, so we will consider one example. In that example, so everybody understood how EMF is generated, how much EMF is generated. Okay, how EMF is generated and how much means magnitude of the EMF is generated, we understood. Now we will consider a conductor which is having a length of L, and it will be placed in a magnetic field with a constant flux density of B Weber per meter square. This is the unit for the flux density. So we have a conductor whose length is L, okay, L meter, and it is placed in a constant magnetic field of B Weber per meter square. And what we are going to do, and we are going to rotate that particular conductor. We are going to rotate that particular conductor in a magnetic field having flux density of B Weber per meter square, and we are going to rotate that conductor with the angular velocity of omega, or it is equivalent to a linear velocity of V, angular velocity of omega. So this is how the setup is. So for this setup, on the left hand side, you are seeing this is a north pole, and this is the south pole. Just you can imagine it is like this. This is the north pole, okay, and this is the south pole. And I have a conductor. So the conductor. So just imagine we have the north and south pole like this, and we have a conductor like this, which is placed like this. Okay, so and this particular conductor, this is the position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4, position 5. And what we are going to do is, this is the position 1. We are going to rotate anti-clockwise in this particular magnetic field. So we are not taking all the position, just for the analysis purpose we are going to take these 4 positions. This is position number 1, position number 2, position number 3, position number 4, position number 5, that is back to 1 again. So what happens is, it will make one rotation. Okay, I hope everybody understood. And the length of this conductor is L, and this magnetic flux density is B Weber per meter square, and the particular conductor is rotated with the angular velocity of omega or linear velocity of V. Now, when it is in the position 1, right? When it is in the position 1, and we are going to move like this. So the direction of motion, and we know that the magnetic lines of force, that is flux, that will start from the north pole and they go to the south pole. That is how the direction. When I am moving this conductor from position 1, when I am moving the conductor from the position 1, the direction of motion is exactly opposite to the flux, but both are in the same direction. So how much magnetic flux will be cut? If conductor and the magnetic lines of force are in the same direction, the amount of magnetic flux cut by the conductor will be 0, because they are in the same direction, isn't it? So when magnetic flux cut by the conductor, when I say magnetic flux cut by the conductor, means flux linked with the conductor. So the flux linked with the conductor is how much? 0. Whenever the flux linked with the conductor is 0, EMF will not be produced. So if I plot the EMF induced in the conductor on a graph, so position number 1 I will mark as 0. Now the conductor will start moving towards the position number 2. So conductor will move like this, and it will come to the position number 2. When it is in the position number 2, it is moving in this direction, right? It's going to move in this direction. So the direction of motion is exactly perpendicular. This would be the direction of motion at this position number 2. The direction of motion and the direction of the flux, they are at 90 degrees. That is when the conductor cuts maximum flux, when it is moving through the position 2, right? When it is moving through the position 2, it cuts the maximum flux, or you can say the flux linked with the conductor is maximum. When the flux linked with a conductor is maximum, when it is cutting maximum flux, then EMF induced in that particular conductor is also maximum. So let us say that the flux cut by that EMF produced at that time is a peak value, that is the maximum value, because that is the maximum flux it can cut. Vm, we represent Vm. So if I plot it on this waveform, this is the position number 2. This happens at a pi by 2. Or if you say this is the complete cycle, 1/4 of the cycle, that is 1/4 of the cycle, or the pi by 2, maximum flux will be cut. And this particular conductor is under the north pole. Okay. And when it is under the north pole, the direction of the EMF induced is this, that is a positive. So under north pole, it will be having the positive direction. Okay. And as it starts moving from position 2 to position 3, okay, it will come to the position 3. When it is moving at position number 3, so okay, the direction of motion is exactly downwards. That means the direction of the flux and the direction of the motion both are in the same direction. At this particular position, the amount of flux cut by the conductor is again 0. So when amount of the flux cut by the conductor is 0, the EMF induced in that conductor is also 0. And if I plot that, this would be the position 3. Okay, it will become 0. And when you move to the, again it will start moving in this direction towards the position number 4. When it is at the moving at the position number 4, okay, first thing is it will cut the maximum flux, because the direction of motion is this way. Okay, direction of motion is this way, and the direction of flux is this way. So it makes again a 90-degree. The conductor will cut maximum flux, but it is under the north pole. So the direction of the voltage will change. Okay. So at position number 4, it will cut the maximum flux. The EMF induced would be maximum, but in the opposite direction, that is minus Vm. And when it starts moving towards the position number 1, okay, at position number 1, again the direction of motion and the flux are in the same direction. So the angle between the flux and the motion is 0. The flux cut by the conductor is 0. If we plot that, that would be 0 again. And if you see here, we got this 1 point, this 2 point, this is third, fourth, and the fifth point. And if we and from position 1 to position 2, okay, if I take any other position here, the angle between the flux and the angle between the flux and the motion would be theta, and proportional to theta it will cut the flux, and proportional to theta it will produce the EMF. Basically it is the proportional to sine of theta. So if I say at this particular position, it will be cutting. If I say this as the theta. So from position 1 to 2, it will gradually increase. Here it is the 0 flux cut, and it will start increasing gradually. The flux cut by the conductor increases gradually, and at position number 2 becomes maximum. So from position 1 to position 2, the flux will the flux linkage will constantly increase. The EMF induced in the conductor will also increase. That is how we get this values. If we join those values, we get a sine wave. And the EMF that is produced inside the induced inside the conductor is directly proportional to sine of the angle between the direction of motion and the direction of the flux. So that is why we get the sine waveform. And if you join all those points, you are going to get a complete sine wave. Okay, the one rotation of the conductor, it produces the one cycle of the alternating voltage or the current. Okay, so you, at position number 1 on the cycle, it would be representing the 0, and under the north pole it will represent pi by 2. When it comes to this position number 3, that will represent the pi, angle pi. And when it comes to the position number 4 under south pole, it represents 3 pi by 2. When it comes back to the original position where it started, again it will be a 0, and that is represented as 2 pi. So this is how the sinusoidal voltage or the current is induced. And if you keep on rotating like this with some mechanism, if you keep on rotating like this, you are going to get the subsequent cycles. So as long as it is rotating, those many cycles of EMF is induced, and it would be in the sinusoidal form. Any questions here? Okay, so if you have done some kind of experiment, somebody said when we move the magnet, it induces the EMF in the conductor. If you have done the experiment, let us say you have a coil and you have connected it to a small bulb. When you are moving the magnet towards it, okay, you will see the light glowing up and glowing down. And if you do with a greater speed, when you do with a greater speed, the amount of flux linkage that is associated with the conductor is changing at a higher rate. When it is changing at a higher rate, you will see the more glow in the light, which represents the more EMF induced. So that is the example where we have the coil as the stationary and we are moving the magnet, right? We have the coil which is connected to bulb and we are moving the magnet. That is how it is lighting. Why it is lighting? Because EMF is produced, voltage is produced, and since it is a closed path, current will flow and the bulb will glow. So in this particular example, you are moving the magnet. In this example, the magnet is constant, means the flux is constant and the conductor is rotating. So you can generate the EMF in two ways. Either you can keep the conductor stationary and move the magnetic field, or you keep the magnetic field constant and move the conductor. In industry, when in thermal power plant and all the hydropower plant, the way it is generated is the field would be constant and the conductors would be rotating. How the conductors would be rotated? Using a turbine. And if it is a hydropower plant, water will be the source of the movement. And if it is a nuclear or thermal power plant, they convert the water into a steam. That heat energy they use to convert water into steam, and that steam is used for rotating the turbines, which in turn it will rotate the conductors in a magnetic field and it will produce the EMF. And how the magnetic field is produced? Is there any other way of producing the magnetic field other than having permanent magnet? One is like I have permanent magnet, north and south, it will produce the magnetic field. Is there any other way to produce magnetic field? Anybody? Any idea?
Solenoid.
Solenoid connected to?
No, it is about
DC supply. So if you give the DC supply to the solenoid, it will create a magnetic field, isn't it? Right?
yes, sir.
Okay. So in when they are doing the using the alternator, or it is also called as a AC generator, they don't use a permanent magnets. They use the electromagnets. So they will have the coils, okay, similar to solenoid, and those coils will be supplied with a DC supply. When we supply the DC supply to the coil, it will produce a magnetic field. And how the north pole or south pole, it depends on the which direction the current flows. Okay, so if it flows in a one direction, it will have a north south. and if it flows in the opposite direction, it will have south and north. So that is how the magnetic field is generated. Any questions on this? I hope everybody understood. It's one of the important questions, how we generate the alternating voltage and the current. So these are the, we talked about the position one. Position one, when conductor is at position one, it moves parallel to the flux lines, hence cuts no flux. When there is no flux cut, so EMF induced is also zero. In position number two is under the north pole. It cuts, moves position 2 after rotating and 90 degree or pi by 2 radians. It cuts the maximum flux, and EMF induced in the conductor is maximum, and it is equal to capital E suffix M, either EM or VM. So both representation we can use. And position number 3, so when it moves to 180 degree, again the flux and the direction of motion are parallel. It will not cut any flux. The EMF induced is again zero at position number 3. Position number 4, when it comes under the south pole, again it will cut the maximum flux. So it will be in the opposite direction. The EMF induced will be in the opposite direction. Does anybody knows what is Fleming's right hand rule? Fleming's right hand rule. It's also called as a generator rule. We remember it as a generator rule. Okay. So right now I told you, right, the direction will change, right? Here direction will change. But how to make sure that which direction the current will flow? So you can use the Fleming's right hand rule. So in case of a Fleming's right hand rule, we can also, it is called as a generator rule. If you know the direction of motion, okay, which direction the conductor is moving, and if you know the direction of the flux, then the first thing is you are going to hold the thumb, forefinger and the middle finger at 90 degrees to each other, and if you point the thumb to the direction of the motion and the forefinger to the direction of the flux, then middle finger will give the direction of the EMF induced or the direction of the current. This is how you can identify inside this conductor which way the current will flow, or the which way is the voltage, which end is positive and which end is negative. Using Fleming's right hand rule, you can identify that direction of the that particular EMF or the current. Okay, now we saw whenever it is moving, it starts from the zero, and as the angle changes, right, as angle changes to 10 degree, 20 degree, 30 degree, the amount of flux cut by the conductor increases. That is how you see there is an increase in the EMF induced. So we can say that EMF induced in the conductor is directly proportional to sine of that particular angle. So initially it was at position 1, the angle between the flux and the motion, direction of motion is 0. That is why sine of 0 is 0. That is why we get the 0 EMF. And when it is at the position 2, the angle between the flux and the direction of motion is 90 degree. So sine of 90 is 1. So that is the maximum value of the EMF induced. Therefore, what we can say, the EMF induced in a conductor is directly proportional to the sine of the theta. And if we remove the proportionality sign, we get the constant. That constant is B into L into V. Therefore, EMF induced in a conductor is given by E is equal to BLV sine theta. Okay, and we know that what is B? B is the flux density, magnetic flux density, and L is
Length of the conductor.
Length of the conductor, and V is the linear velocity, how fast you are rotating that. Correct? Now, you know that this value sine theta will change from 0 to 1. Okay, 0 to 1 and again becomes 0, then minus 1 again becomes 0. Now the amount of voltage that is generated will depend on these three factors, that is flux density, length and the velocity. If you have a more flux density, then the amount of EMF generated is more. If the length of the conductor is more the length, the more the EMF is generated. And velocity, uh, how much faster you rotate. If velocity is more, then the EMF induced is more. So we can say that the amount of EMF that is generated is dependent on the flux density. Normally, if it is a machine, B would be constant and L would be constant. Why L is constant? Once you have the conductor inside the machine, L is also constant and B is also constant. And how the voltage will change? The voltage will depends on the speed, how much speed you are rotating. Okay, the conductors, based on that the amount of the voltage will change. And this BLV is nothing but the EM, that is the peak value. Therefore you can write the equation E is equal to EM sine theta. All the alternating quantities are represented in the form E is equal to EM sine theta, where EM is the maximum value, and in this particular case it is equal to V into L into V. And similarly, any alternating entity or the quantity can be represented as the sine function. This is the induced EMF. Similarly, for the current, you have to observe here, this is the lower case letter we have used to represent the induced EMF. Similarly, lower case letter I to represent the current. I is equal to Im sin theta. This lower case letters E or I or lowercase v, they are called as the instantaneous values. We will see what is that instantaneous value. So current can be represented as I is equal to Im sin theta. Voltage can be represented as either E is equal to Em sin theta or V is equal to Vm sin theta. And this theta is nothing but the omega into t. Therefore, I is equal to Im omega t, and omega is nothing but the angular speed, that is 2 pi f. So I can write the equation I is equal to Im sin theta, or I is equal to Im sin omega t, or I is equal to Im sin 2 pi ft, where f is the frequency. So what is the frequency? Anybody? We are going to see the definition of the frequency, but just I wanted to check if anybody knows what is a frequency. What is your household electricity supply frequency?
50 hertz.
50 hertz. What do you understand by? Yeah, correct. Okay, correct, Vaishnavi. Number of cycles per second. So in your household, this is the one cycle. Okay, when we rotated one, we got one cycle. In your household electric supply, the frequency is 50 hertz. That means what? Frequency is number of cycles per second. So 50 means what? We have 50 such cycles in 1 second. In 1 second, we are having such 50 cycles. That is the 50. That is the frequency. So these are some of the definitions that are associated with the sinusoidally varying quantities. Whenever we talk about any sinusoidal voltage or the current, we we have to understand what is the instantaneous value, what is the amplitude, what is the frequency, what is the time period, and what is the alternation. As I told you, instantaneous value means what? The value of the alternating quantity at that particular instant of time t. Okay, so if you see the equation here, I is equal to Im sin omega t or 2 pi f t. So as time changes, t changes, the instantaneous value will keep on changing, right? If I say this as a current, current at time t1 is called as the instantaneous value at the t1. So I2 would be instantaneous current at time t2. So instantaneous value means what? Along this curve, so I have different values based on the time. So at that particular time, whatever the value is represented by the instantaneous value, that is the instantaneous value. So instantaneous value, you can use the lowercase v or lowercase e to represent the voltage and lowercase I to represent the current. And what is the amplitude? As already we have seen, amplitude is the peak value that particular alternating quantity takes. So whenever you have the alternating quantity, the maximum value or the peak value that it attains is called as a amplitude, and it is represented with a v suffix m, vm or em or I suffix m. Here v, e and I are in capital letter. And frequency, already as you said, the frequency is nothing but the number of cycles per second. So how many cycles are there in one second, that represents the frequency. And this is also represented in another unit, hertz, cycles per second or hertz. And what is a time period? Time period is nothing but the time taken for alternating quantity to complete one cycle. So we have seen the cycle, the time taken by the alternating quantity to complete one cycle. So this time from here to here, whatever the time, this is the time scale. On this time scale, the total time taken by the alternating quantity to complete one cycle, that is called as a time period, and it is represented in seconds. So instantaneous value, this is the value of EMF or current induced in a conductor at any instant. So instant is the with respect to time. With respect to time, whatever is the value of the alternating quantity, that is represented using the instantaneous value. Amplitude, the maximum value attained by an alternating quantity is called as a amplitude or the peak value. Okay, for voltage or EMF, it is denoted by EM or VM, and for current, it is capital I suffix M. Frequency, number of cycles occur in one second is called as a frequency. It is measured in cycles per second or hertz. In India, AC supply is 50 hertz. So in India, wherever the power is generated, it has to be generated with a 50 hertz frequency only. And some of the countries, they follow a 60 hertz supply, as we discussed earlier. A time period T, this is the time taken to complete one cycle of an alternating quantity, and it is represented by capital T and is given by, so the time period capital T is equal to 1 by F, or frequency is equal to 1 by T. This is the relation between the time period and the frequency. And alternation, what is the alternation? Alternation is the time taken by the alternating quantity to complete half cycle. So this is the time taken to complete half cycle. Therefore alternation is T by 2. So this is a representation of the different quantities. This is time period to complete one cycle. This is T. Excuse me. So on the y-axis, we are representing the instantaneous value, lowercase v or lowercase I, lowercase e, and this is the timeline. Okay, or it is, and in this case, it is theta or omega t, and at pi by 2, this is the value of em or im, and this waveform is represented with E is equal to em sin theta or I is equal to im sin theta, and this is the amplitude. So whenever you are representing an alternating quantity with a waveform, the few things which are most important to represent is the time period. So what is the time period and the peak value? Once you represent the time period and the peak value, we can write the equation for that particular waveform. Okay, let us solve some problems. This is the example given here. Okay, so this particular example is we have a half cycle. The maximum current in a sinusoidal AC circuit is 10 amperes. So what is this 10 amperes? The maximum current in a sinusoidal AC circuit is 10 amperes. What is the instantaneous current at 45 degree? So this is the waveform. They have given the 10 amperes. Anybody, what is 10 amperes with respect to various factors we discussed?
IM.
IM, very good. So this is IM, and what they are asking is a lowercase I, instantaneous current I, but at angle 45 degree. First thing is, whenever we get a any kind of a alternating quantity, you are going to write it in the equation. What you are going to write? I is equal to IM
Sin theta.
sin theta. Okay, in this particular case, sin theta. We have like either we can say I is equal to Im sin theta, I is equal to Im sin omega t, or I is equal to Im sin 2 pi ft. These are the three forms. Based on what they have given, you can use appropriate equation. Now, and once you have to, one thing you have to remember, when you are calculating sine of the angle, that angle should be always in radians. Okay, can you calculate? So already you have I is equal to Im sine theta. Can you find what would be the I if theta is equal to 45 degree? What is the answer?
Seven point zero seven.
7.0.
7.07.
Very good.
7.07.
Very good. So this is the solution for that. I is equal to Im sin theta. Then Im is equal to 10 amperes. Okay. So this is maximum value is 10 amperes, and we have to find at 45 degree. Okay. Almost half of that pi by 4. So I is equal to 10 into sin 45 or pi by 4, and you get answer as 7.07 amperes. Next, write a mathematical expression for 50 Hertz sinusoidal voltage of peak value 80 volt. Sketch the waveform. So what you have to do here? We have to write a mathematical expression for a alternating quantity which has a frequency of 50 Hertz and it has a peak value of 80 volt, and also we have to sketch the waveform. So what is the V? Lowercase v. Always start with the general formula. Lowercase v. Since they have given the frequency, which form of the equation you are going to use? Lowercase v is equal to okay, good. All of you good. So which equation you are going to use here? All the alternating quantities are represented as in the format instantaneous value is equal to peak value and the sine of the angle. In this case, V is equal to lowercase v is equal to Vm sine 2 pi ft, isn't it?
2 pi ft.
Okay. What is the answer for this? The mathematical expression? What is the mathematical expression? F is given, F is equal to 50 and Vm is equal to 80, isn't it? Therefore, the mathematical expression, when we say mathematical expression for the instantaneous value, V is equal to Vm sine 2 pi ft. Okay. So f is given 50 hertz. The peak value is given. They have given the, they either say the maximum value, peak value, amplitude. You should be able to understand that particular terminology. So Vm is equal to 80 volt, and omega, we know that it is 2 pi f, that is 2 pi into 50. It will come as 314 radians per second. Therefore, we know V is equal to Vm sin omega t, or you can directly use V is equal to Vm 2 pi ft. Therefore, that's why we get the mathematical expression as V is equal to 80 into sine of 314t. That is the answer. This is the mathematical expression. Now, when they say sketch the waveform, whenever you have to sketch the waveform, you have to specify the what is the time period. Okay, t and the amplitude. So how to calculate t? Capital time period is equal to 1 by f. 1 by f is equal to 1 by 50. That becomes 20 milliseconds. 20 into 10 raised to minus 3 second, 20 millisecond. So you are going to draw the waveform. Okay. After drawing the waveform, you will mark the peak value as 80 volt, and this is the timeline t. X-axis is t and y-axis is lowercase v, and between start of the cycle and the end of the cycle, that is the time period, you are going to mark t is equal to 20 millisecond. Then this becomes 10 millisecond, this is 5, 15 millisecond, and 20 millisecond. And just you can draw one waveform, that is one cycle, that is sufficient. Any questions? Very good, Rohit. Okay, this is the next problem. We'll solve this, and then we'll resume in the next class. An alternating current is given by, this is the equation for the alternating current. I is equal to 141.4 sine 314t. I is equal to 141.4 sine 340t. So this is 314t is nothing but the omega t. What we have to find? Maximum value, frequency, time period, instantaneous value after 3 milliseconds. What is the maximum value? So this is nothing but
41.4.
this is 141.4. Please take it as 141.4. So this is nothing but I is equal to Im sine omega t. So if you compare this equation with I is equal to Im sine omega t, Im becomes 141.4 amperes, and omega will become 314. And we know that what is omega? 2 pi f is equal to 314. Therefore, f is equal to 314 divided by 2 pi. So that is how we get the frequency. And once you know the frequency, time period is t is equal to 1 by f. And next one is instantaneous value after 3 milliseconds. So you have to put 3 millisecond is what? This time is always in second. 3 into 10 raised to minus 3. Substitute 3 into 10 raised to minus 3. So this will be taken as the radians. Sine of that angle and multiplied with 141. We get what is the current after 3 milliseconds. So this is the solution. I is equal to 141.4 sine 314t. Compare this equation with I is equal to Im sine omega t. So this Im is 141.4, omega is 314. So first answer, Im is equal to 141.4 amperes, omega is equal to 2 pi f, omega is equal to 314, which will result in frequency of 50 hertz. And to calculate the time period, t is equal to 1 by f. 1 by 50, that is 0.02 second or 20 millisecond. Okay. Then what is the instantaneous value of the current at 3 millisecond. Substitute t is equal to 3 millisecond in this equation. So this would be I is equal to 141.4 into sine of 314 into 10 raised to minus 3. And if you want to convert it to into degree, if you are using your calculator as a degree, multiply this entity with 180 divided by pi. That is how you convert this radians into degree. Then apply the sine on top. Apply the sine of this angle and multiply with 141.4. So you'll get the answer as 114.35. That is the instantaneous value of the current when time t is equal to 3 milliseconds. Anybody got this answer? 114.35. No, 141.4 is the peak value, Aditya.